Hello, everyone, and welcome to Phoenix City Schools Path to Reopening. This is part six. We're only going to talk about in part six instructional delivery. As you know, Dr. Eric Mackey on Friday of last week released the roadmap, the plan for reopening schools 2020-2021 on last Friday. The bulk of that document that he released deals with curriculum and instruction. Okay. And in that, he talks about how the state of Alabama will recognize and will afford students either traditional methods of instructional delivery, in other words, in person, going to school, going to brick and mortar every day, you're physically there, some type of blended approach where you may be there, you may not be, or half the kids may be there and half the kids may not be, some periodic attendance at school. And then he also talked about the remote plan, the virtual school, if you will, and what it might look like. Whereas there might be some physical attendance required. We think that we can do most testing virtually, electronically, but we're not absolutely sure of that. Regardless of the level, 1 through 4, it's going to be afforded. Quite frankly, we've always had a virtual school policy. In all my years in Phoenix City, we've only had one student in that time that opted for virtual school. But you may, under the circumstances, opt out of in-person instruction and want to participate in this virtual/remote learning opportunity. I'm going to go ahead and tell you that the curriculum is going to be more rigorous than last year. The pace is going to be faster. The expectations are going to be higher. It's not the fourth 9 weeks, it's the beginning of school, and there's a lot of material to cover. This will probably not be the easiest for people to participate in. You're going to have internet connection. There's just really no way around it. We have some MiFis here in the office that we can provide for you if you don't have internet access. Let me tell you right now that internet access is not smartphone. That's just because you've got a smartphone and you can pull down emails. That's not how the instruction is going to be delivered this fall. There's going to be a lot of video conferencing that is going to be necessary, especially at the high school level where you might be participating or would be participating in access. And we'll talk more about that in just a moment, what access looks like at the high school level. But that internet access is certainly going to be necessary for those teachers that have declared themselves to be vulnerable. The most vulnerable population here, they'll be reassigned and transferred so that they're teaching remotely to students. Um, they'll be given particular grade levels and subjects to teach, okay? The deadline for you notifying this school system for the first 9 weeks you want your child to participate, want them to opt out of in-person and participate in remote virtual learning, July the 6th. So we've got to know sooner than later, okay? In-person instruction, you all know what that looks like. It's going to look a little bit different than it did last year, especially for high school students, okay? So in everything that we do, you're going to be assigned a seat and you're going to be students expected to sit in that seat every day. It will help us with cleaning, okay? So you've got a desk to sit in every class. For this school year, the following grade spans are going to participate in the following schedule types. This is going to be different, okay? Grades 8 through 12, you're going to participate in an A-B block schedule. Before I got here, Phoenix City Schools had operated, and maybe at the high school only, with a block schedule. This block is going to be different than a lot of other blocks in Phoenix City Schools' former block. Whereas I'm only taking 4 classes this semester, and next semester I'm taking 4 more. And I never liked that as a math teacher because I might take Algebra 1 first semester this year, and I wouldn't have any math second semester, And I might not have the following year first semester math. It might be all the way out to second semester for the next year before I got to geometry. And that's just too much of a lapse, in my opinion, in being exposed to those concepts. So what we're doing is much more beneficial to students in that they're going to take all 8 periods at one time, and they're going to observe A and B days. In other words, A will be periods 1 through 4, and they'll do that on Monday, and then 5 through 8 will be on Tuesdays or B days. Okay, and they'll alternate those: Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And then one Friday might be an A day, the next Friday is going to be a B day. Okay, that's much more beneficial for students. And the reason we're doing this with an 8-period day, Mr. Vickers and Miss Avery is going to explain this, and Mr. McDonald, much more detail. An 8-period day, we can reduce class sizes by 17%. So we can space students at the high school level further apart. And also what that's going to do is it's going to allow us to have fewer class changes. Okay. And that's very important because there's less opportunity to cross-contaminate areas. So we think that this is a good plan. I'm going to go ahead and tell you that it's probably the most difficult plan for teachers. Be patient with our teachers. They're going to teach 100-minute blocks. And sometimes they're going to teach 4 of those in a day. They'll always have 30 minutes of duty free every day, but they're going to have that 100-minute block, 4 of them on a given day. And the next day they're going to have 3 and have the 100 minutes off to plan properly. Okay. They'll always have 30 minutes up front in the morning, duty free time. It's the most difficult schedule, I believe, that there can possibly be for teachers. And teachers, we're sorry, and you know that, but we're doing what is in the best interest of students here, okay? And thank you. Thank you for the commitment, the level of commitment that you have to our students. And we're going to make this work, okay? But I'm just telling you, parents, know that you've got a committed group of people out there that are really committed to doing what's best for students first and foremost, okay? So we've acknowledged that, and that's going to be the case grades 8 all the way up through 12. Some wonderful opportunities for our students. And then in grades 3 through 7, they're departmentalized. The core teachers are going to rotate. In most cases, there's a team of 2, and in some cases, a team of 3 that teach students. And they would go to one teacher for math and science, and maybe to another teacher for reading and language arts. Okay, and they would rotate during the day. They're not going to rotate. The teachers are going to rotate. Okay. And again, that's going to help us with taking 20 bodies or 22 bodies and physically moving them through the halls to another location and having to clean those desks after every class change and so forth. So the teachers are going to be the ones that change. And again, thank you, teachers. Your role is going to be more difficult, but we're doing it to protect students. Okay. K4 through 2, they're self-contained classes. The only transition that we've really got to be concerned with there would be that of physical education, and if there are any electives that we're going to participate in. Okay, so all of that was under in-person instruction. So if you're opting out of in-person instruction, the deadline to opt out again, as I've said now at least 3 times in the mini presentations, you've got to complete the survey and you've got to do it by the 6th. Don't complete the survey if you're coming back to brick and mortar. That's what that first paragraph says. Okay. So here's the link to this document that I'm sharing with you right now. Okay. If you're confused and still don't know, refer back to this video, to the emails, to the link above for clarification. We're asking that once you put your hand to the plow, that you don't look back for 9 weeks. In other words, if you're signing on, you're opting out and you're going to go remote, stay there 9 weeks. We'll ask you about middle ways through the first 9 weeks. Do you plan to do this again the next 9 weeks? too much confusion to transition in and out. So once you set the course, that goes for in-person instruction as well, stay the course for 9 weeks. So please consider that when making this decision. You'll have support of our teachers. We'll talk about what this opting out looks like in just a second. All this is information I would not have had prior to the State Department's release on last Friday. The information here is relatively simplistic, but I do want you to consider this. Do you have suitable internet connection that's going to support your child? And then you need to think too, if we give you a MiFi, how does Verizon look? Because that's the cellular company that we're using. How does it work at your house? There are some places throughout the city that my calls are dropped. Okay, so think about that. And we're not talking about internet access through the smartphone. Your child's got to be able to video conference with teachers this year. The smartphone is not going to be adequate, okay? Especially if you're at work when we need it. We're going to deliver instruction during the normal school day, okay? And again, it's going to be much faster, much more rigorous than last year. 504s, EL services, let us know if you are going to need those services, and you're committing to this for 1 week, and you just simply take your mouse and write your name and sign it there, okay? So don't come to school if you're opting out of in-person instruction. Your teacher will be in contact with you and let you know what the 17th is going to look like. So if you're in grades 9 through 12, you're going to utilize Access. And you can click on that link. We've been utilizing Access for a number of years in Phoenix City Schools in the state of Alabama. Know that the teacher responsible for that instruction, they're not our employees. I don't know if they're anywhere in the world, but they can certainly be anywhere in the state of Alabama. They're certified. They're highly qualified to teach those subjects, but they're not our people. So if you opt for Access in grades 9 through 12, you may not necessarily be dealing with Mr. Vickers, Mr. McDonald, or Miss Averett. You may be dealing with somebody from, I don't know where. They're out there virtually, okay? If you've got an IEP, individual education plan, we may utilize various means of instructional delivery. You're the exception to Access. Access could be applicable to students with an IEP, or it may not be, okay? There are some other available virtual learning platforms, but at this point in time, we can't guarantee that if you're in career tech, that we're going to be able to provide you a specific class, because we're not sure about these other platforms just yet. So just know that you may opt out of, you may not be able to take some career technical education classes remotely, especially for the hands-on, mind-zone type activities such as masonry. That just content can't be delivered electronically. I don't believe it can, okay? So career tech, you may not get every elective that you want if you're at home. You're going to be limited. So just know that up front. K-8, the state has given us this program, Schools PLP, and they released this information to us last Friday. We're all waiting for passwords to get in and to look around. I'm not sure about it just yet. You get in there, you look around. It looks interesting. I'm not sure that's going to be the route for our students. What we did last year via video conferencing and Google Meet using Google Classroom, I don't think right now that Schools PLP is a better option. It looks very flat. It doesn't look like it provides any verbal instruction, or very limited. It doesn't look like, if you've ever seen Khan Academy, or what we utilize at the high school, another program called Edgenuity, whereas there's somebody via video demonstrating something, and then you work a couple of problems, and we check those problems, and then when you're adequate, we give you more opportunities to demonstrate that, and then there's a test. Schools PLP does not look like that yet. I wish I knew more. We're all in the school district trying to log in, and we can't get passwords and things fast enough for this presentation today. So I would think, as it stands right now, we are leaning much more towards video conferencing and the delivery of that instruction like we did last spring to your child at home. So that means you've got to have really good internet access at home. Okay. But I'm not going to completely rule out PLP. And just like at the high school, if you've got an individual education plan, we may have to use multiple platforms. Okay. So, and then there's some specific things that we need to look at. If you're in 6 through 7 and you're participating in the Accelerated Academy, of course, if you're coming to school, that takes care of itself. But as it is right now, I don't know that we can guarantee via Schools PLP or the video conferencing that all the standards that you need in the Accelerated Academy will be taught and your child will master those. The only close way that we have to really guaranteeing that is by your child coming to school. So if they're participating remotely, virtually, they're still responsible for those standards. And I'm not saying that your child can't be Accelerated Academy and work from home and do these things remotely and then return to school in the 7th grade and stay in the Accelerated Academy. Do I think they may be missing some skills and some standards? Yes. I think that's likely. Okay. But we've had people to move in and jump right into the Accelerated Academy in the 7th grade and do okay. I'm not going to say they didn't have to have some type of remediation, some type of tutoring. Okay. So just know it's not a guarantee. Remote learning is not that everything is going to be provided just like it would be as if you were at school. In grade 8, access. For high school credit to meet NCAA clearinghouse rules and regulations, accreditation purposes is a little bit different when you're getting high school credit. So down here, access. And I can go ahead and tell you my experience has been that access is typically a little more difficult than an in-person instruction. Okay, it's just, you can imagine that remote is just going to be more difficult. Okay, so that's what we're doing for Accelerated Academy students. You will be expected remotely to keep up with the same pace, to be introduced to the same standards as if you were in person. It will not be watered down, cannot be watered down. Choosing remote instruction, again, we're asking that you stay in it for a 9-week period of time. And in attendance, this is more for school persons, people, employees. We will mark their attendance as other remote learning. And students who elect to participate in remote learning may participate in extracurricular activities. So it is possible for you to participate in Access or Schools PLP or Google Meet, Google Video Conferencing, and still be a member of the Beta Club and participate, a member of another club at school, football, tennis, golf, and still participate. Okay. So that's pretty much everything in regards to instructional delivery. And again, the schools are going to put out much more detailed information regarding these opportunities.